Hey guys, Dan here. We are pretty much at the end of the growing season. It's late September, and I think I've bought all my plants for the year and all the equipment I need to get me through winter. So I thought I would share with you how much money I spent my first year starting a food forest in my half-acre property at home. I'd like to share with you some pretty specific numbers on what I bought this year and how much money I spent on it, but I also like to share how I saved a lot of money this year. This is a project that could be pretty expensive. You could obviously pay professionals to come in, buy all the plants, plan everything for you, set everything up for you. You'd be paying quite a lot. So, how cheap is it when you try to do it pretty much like I do? Um, well done, but affordable. A little information before we get started. At home, I have about half an acre, and this year I've planted out not even half of it yet. Of the stuff I've planted, I have all the big stuff in the ground, the more expensive stuff, the trees, the shrubs, and I'm probably going to spend a number of years tinkering and filling in the gap work with different ground covers or small shrubs or vines. So there's still a lot more that could be done and that I will do. But I think for the beginner, someone who's just getting started, this is a pretty good estimation of how much you'll have to spend for the main bulk of everything. There are also a number of things I bought that you probably won't need to buy. I had to buy a wheelbarrow this year, and a chainsaw, things like that that you may already have on your property. You may be able to get going right away. So jumping in, how was I able to start saving money on this project from day one? Well, big part of it was just patience and a little bit of skill in propagating plants on my own. For example, I have a row of tea plants that I've planted at the front of my front yard, so there'll be a nice evergreen shrub hedge layer, kind of providing some visual and maybe some sound barrier from the road. Well, man, those tea plants are really expensive, and I found some online for like 70 bucks. And I was able to save a lot of money by growing them from seed. But it just takes a lot of patience. They kind of grow slowly. So I think the seeds that I planted will probably take maybe 2 years to reach the height of the plant I could have bought for 70 bucks online. There was also a lot of just patience in finding dealers. The top website Google searches usually are much more expensive than the small scale little backyard permaculture people selling stuff. And then the last way I save money is just leaning into this network of plant people. Plant people, if you can find them, are so excited to talk about plants and to just share plants. I have a number of friends who are just so happy to just send me cuttings. Now, you can also do some stuff on your own, like grafting. Like if you want a really special variety of apple or pawpaw, you can find friends who have that variety, learn how to graft or ask them how to graft, and take the scion wood from them and graft it onto a really cheap rootstock or grown from home seed. Finding the network, if you don't have one already, can take a little bit of time. Like I mentioned already, Facebook Marketplace is probably a really great place to start. Plant people I've found are oftentimes selling excess plants or selling plants they've grown themselves or selling excess fruit online on Facebook Marketplace. And so starting to make those connections. There's also those Facebook groups and things like that in your area that I found some really good, strong connections. And I was also able to do some Googling and some researching and find small local plant nurseries with some cool people who I was able to start getting in touch with to help me out. So that networking saved me a lot of money. The last way I was able to save money, it was actually by making money. So I would buy plants in bulk that I wanted to plant a handful of, and then I would sell the excess on Facebook Marketplace and actually end up making a little bit of money off of the plants I was already planning on buying for myself. I'm also working on just starting up a plant nursery, so I have some sources where I can get name cultivars of things like elderberry or even just wild elderberry and selling the cuttings or rooting those cuttings myself, or I have some young yastaberry plants on my property that I can root the cuttings myself and sell them. So things like that, people are really happy to pay a fair amount for on Marketplace, and it doesn't totally pay for everything on its own, but it cut down a huge amount of the costs for me. So jumping in, year one, maybe about a little over a tenth of an acre planted out pretty well of a food forest. How much money did I spend? I'll give you the number right up front, and then we can kind of break down where I spent that. So for myself, I spent just under $3,000. The number I have is $2,843.84. So I've broken down what I've spent into four main categories. I have education, equipment, miscellaneous, and then plants. And that plants was definitely where I spent the most amount of money. So, starting with education, I spent $40 on a grafting class through the Backyard Fruit Growers Association located here in Lancaster County. It was an invaluable resource. I'm so glad trained longtime grafters were able to get me up to speed and show me how to do it. I think that'll really help me not only doing some plant nursery stuff, but also just saving a lot of money in the long run by growing things like pawpaws from seed and then grafting on scion wood from the special varieties I want. And that was the only education money I spent. YouTube, Google, friends was pretty much everything else I felt like I needed to get going for this first year. And the library and books. And so there's a lot of free resources out there that you can use. The next category I have is equipment. I spent $1,181.29. Now, a lot of this stuff you may also already have at home. So, for example, I bought a bunch of 5-gallon buckets off of Facebook Marketplace. Just general garden tools like a shovel and some clippers. I bought a chainsaw, plant tags, a wheelbarrow, fencing around the garden and where I wanted to grow some nut trees. I bought a pretty expensive nut cracker so that I could crack black walnuts because there was a lot of just free black walnuts dropping on my front yard. So the miscellaneous category was mostly things for the nursery that I don't think a lot of you would probably want to buy unless you were planning on doing some nursery work of your own. So I bought some nursery pens and some Sharpies. I did buy some fishing line for my failed deer fence experiment. I bought some Sluggo. I had a big slug problem in the veggie garden. I had some fertilizer stuff. I had mesh onion bags for storing black walnuts. All in all, I spent about $100, $99. And then the last category is the big one. And that's the category where I have all my plants, and that I included seeds in that as well. I included in this seeds that I'm growing out to sell on Facebook Marketplace. I might plant some of the plants, but I'm growing most of them out to sell. It also has seeds that I had for the veggie garden. Just a few things to point out, examples here. Like I said, I spent about $32 on a whole bunch of tea seeds instead of spending $70 per tea plant. I bought some persimmon seeds and some pawpaw seeds and hazelnut seeds to grow out in the plant nursery and sell and give away. I bought some sunchokes for myself. I have some apple root stocks that I grafted onto. I bought some cuttings of like flame willow and some gooseberry and raspberry stuff. I bought a whole bunch of veggie seeds, and all the veggies were just destroyed by deer this year. Next year. I bought some wine cap spawn to inoculate in the garden. And I bought some named plants, like some named pawpaws, some named elderberries, a variety of different named lavender. Yeah, so a lot of different plants. All in all, I spent $1,549 on plants this year. A few last things. I still have some trees, some pear trees and apple trees to transplant from the middle school garden to my home. So if you don't see some big, more expensive like fruit trees on this list, that's why. So there's a little bit more money there that you might need to spend than what I did. So all in all, I spent just under $3,000 for the first year. For, like I said, about a tenth of an acre. Now, a lot of those plants, I can propagate on my own and continue to spread. So as long as I don't want to add any diversity to my food forest, I could pretty much just continue to grow the food forest on its own without spending much more money. Now, I do want to add a lot of diversity, so I'd probably still be spending quite a bit of money on plants over the next 2 or 3 years until I feel like I've kind of settled things in. Last thing here, if you just are tired of having a lawn and you want to grow food and grow native plants, but don't have any money to spend, as long as you have some time and some energy and a few easy to learn skills, I really think you could do it for $0. Here's what I would do. First, I would start by mulching everything heavily with free wood chips you can find around town and calling up wood chip companies. So, mulch the whole lawn really heavily with wood chips. Maybe also put a layer of free cardboard from like the recycling center near you on top of the grass to really smother and kill the grass. 4, 6, 8 inches of wood chips on top of that. If you're going for free, I would just give up the idea of growing a very specific type of plants and be open to growing wild varieties of easy to find native plants. I'm thinking elderberries, super easy to start from cuttings, literally just shoving them in the ground. Pawpaw is super easy to collect seed, plant the seed directly where you want it to grow. Same with American persimmons. You can also just find people online or as you're walking about town who may have things like figs, which are also really easy to grow from cuttings, and you can just ask them for a cutting of their fig. If you were resourceful and had some time and some energy to do it, I really think you could have a nice, decent sized food forest completely for free with, 10, 15 different varieties of plants easily. And I think as you want to expand and grow the diversity, it's going to be harder and harder to do it for free. But I mean, 10 varieties of fruit and nut bearing trees and shrubs, that's amazing. That's a ton of money you'll save. And if most of them are native or all of them are native, what a big benefit for the local animal population and pollinators. If you have questions on anything else that I talked about here or would like more information about some of my details, I'm very happy to share and talk about finances in terms of growing these food forests. I want to show people that they can be really easy to do and really affordable to do. And frankly, I think even more affordable than taking care of your grass lawn. You don't have to buy a mower. You don't have to buy grass seed and fertilizer and pesticide stuff. You can really just plant seeds and let natives do what natives want to do.